Right. Prime Minister Modi, in an indirect reference to China, stated that COVID-19 has shown that the excessive dependence of the global supply chain on any single source is risky during a virtual bilateral summit with his Denmark counterpart, Mette Frederiksen. The Prime Minister went on to add that India is working with Australia and Japan to diversify the supply chain, noting that like-minded countries are welcoming this joint initiative. India has been asking and seeking to attract businesses looking to relocate from China in the aftermath of the coronavirus outbreak. The government has already lowered taxes on companies to among the lowest in Asia, seeking to attract new investments in an economy which marked its first contraction in more than 4 decades this year. And we'll talk about this with our guest. Joining me on the panel is Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, Joyita Basu, editor of the Sunday Guardian, Sumit Peer, political analyst, Major General Dhruv Katoch, defense and strategic expert and director of the India Foundation. Sumit Peer, let me come to you first. The Prime Minister, I heard his statement, he went on to say that if the world continues to depend on one source alone, and obviously he was making a reference to China, then it would be a risky affair. Is this something that do you think the world recognizes, or does China need to in fact do worse than it already is doing for the world to in fact completely ostracize it?
I think the Prime Minister, when he started, he said that the two like-minded countries. So when he meant by like-minded, it is the democracies. So he made the distinction at the very beginning. So the world is shaping up into democracies and autocracies of these communist regimes like China. So when he meant these like-minded countries, people like us, US, Denmark, and all the democratic countries can cooperate because rule of the law prevails in these countries, like human benefit and the other things for the good of humanity prevail. But when it is autocracies like China, the will of one man is supreme. So today China and North Korea are not too different. You know, this Kim and here it is Z. So they will decide everything. So reducing the dependence on these autocracies is what the Prime Minister meant. When you are democracies, you can talk to each other, we can collaborate, we can be dependent on each other, but the world has to see that when you look at a country, is it a democratic country or is it an autocratic country? As democracies, you can depend, but as autocracies, it is danger. So China has shown to the world how unreliable they are. Even at the COVID times, we gave this HCQ to 170 countries, and what did the Prime Minister say a couple of days back? He said that we will supply the vaccine to the whole world. What is China doing? We need Tetra. You use my vaccine. I also give you $1 billion of loan. You use that money to buy my vaccine. In the meanwhile, give me around 500,000 people as guinea pigs for my clinical trials. That is what China is doing. So what are we saying? We will give you affordable vaccine to everybody on the planet Earth. That is our commitment. And we are not here differentiating between friends, and we are not giving those loans to buy our vaccine. We are not entrapping people. So even in the time of pandemic, China is doing its best to entrap those smaller countries. It's a very kind of a fraud scheme wherein you are using the people of a country as guinea pigs. Then you are making the government of the country pay for your flawed vaccine, and then you are supplying them vaccine which nobody knows will it work or not. For the sake of God, we don't even know is it a vaccine or not. Who knows, it's maybe another strain of COVID which they are trying to pass through, human cultures to make it more virulent. It's a very dangerous thing.
Joyita, it's a new world order that we're aspiring for. Everybody's worried about, the vaccine coming along and, restoring the world back to how it was pre-COVID-19 days. But when the vaccine comes, do we want the world to be the way it was pre-COVID-19 days? Obviously, this new world order that the Prime Minister is also endorsing, which is without China, is it a possibility in the next 5 to 7 years, or do you think this decoupling, this cutting of this umbilical cord that every country perhaps on the planet, on the globe has, is going to take longer?
To be blunt, Vineet, no, it is not possible to have a world order where the dependence on China goes. That is because, you see, the fundamental problem is greed. The fundamental problem is greed, and as long as there is corporate greed, as long as the companies are looking at in terms of making profits, and as long as they're looking at numbers, all ideology, all values about democracy, everything can go out of the window. You see, when you are looking at China, the way China is, it is primarily because in spite of China's horrible human rights record, in spite of China's and China is not a malign power today. China is showing its face today. But China has been a malign power for a very, very long time. But in spite of that, what China is today, the Americans have made China, the Japanese have made China the way they are, the Taiwanese have made China. It is on the back of their businesses, their factories, what China is doing right now. You think even Japan, for that matter, to ensure that its companies shift out of China, they have to incentivize that. They have to give billion-dollar investments over there. So you see all this talk about, okay, everybody will be leaving China and all, it does not work like that, primarily because, as we were just discussing yesterday, in fact, with someone, it's because China gives you the conditions. Basically, you quote a price, China will create the condition to ensure that that price is fulfilled. It happens the other way around in other countries. But in China's case, this is how it happens. So I don't see companies, unless and until they are incentivized in a very big way, to be shifting out. Although made in China is an anathema in the West also definitely in India, but I don't see companies shifting out of China that much as yet.
General Katoch, is this the confidence that China is perhaps misusing to exploit sensitivities all around the world? That look, you can't do without us, so we get to do whatever we want.
Oh, you see, China has got the economic clout. Let us face certain realities. China has got a powerful military, but more importantly, it's got a powerful economic clout, and it has exploited that. Unfortunately for China, I think the way they have played it now is boomeranging against them. The way the aftermath of the China virus took place, it has not gone down well anywhere in the world. And the way China is actually controlling the economies of various countries, again, I think is something which has caused deep concern in Africa, in Asia, and in the West. So there is certainly a movement to push back, and I think that pushback has already started. Now, the Prime Minister's statement, of course, he didn't mention China, there was no need to, but the very simple statement that the world can no longer depend on a single source was a very apt statement, because a single source can blackmail you. And now when you have multiple sources, well, if that source dries up, we have other options also. And I think it is very important for India and for the other major economies to understand this point, that we cannot depend on a single source. That will hurt us in the long term very badly, regardless of the fact that we can get the products cheap now. Including when we take the example of India, China tried to muscle into the power sector, and fortunately that was stopped. Otherwise, you would find every aspect of the power sector would have been controlled by China. And coming 5 to 10 years from now, if they had withdrawn support, then we would be in a very, very difficult situation. So I think there are certain things which we have to do on our own. This Atmanirbhar Bharat cannot be a mere slogan. It has to be something much more than that. It is something which each one of us, the 1.3 billion Indians, have to contribute towards, so that we can have the power to take on any power. Today it is China, tomorrow it could be somebody else. But we need to take them on. We need to stand on our own feet. And China is certainly going to be on the back foot, because besides the question of single source, I think what the Prime Minister was also hinting at was a larger alliance coming up in the Indo-Pacific. And I think that will come up in due course of time. I have no doubts about it.
Absolutely. Ambassador Sarjanhar, a certain number of countries have in fact said that we really don't see a reason to decouple from China. In fact, initially Germany was one of them. But if you look at the reality, like Joyita also pointed out, if you look at corporate greed, which plays a pivotal role in defining the economy of any country, is going to be at the center stage of relationships after COVID-19 has settled down. Do you think this new world order is something that India perhaps can vie for? And if we are looking to replace China on multiple levels, then what is the level of escalation that is needed in terms of reforms within our own country?
You're very right, Vineet. I think definitely we have to put our own house in order. I think you put your finger on the pulse, whatever it is. And I think some of the things are being done, whether it is in the area of labor laws, whether it is in the area of cost of capital, whether it is in the area of land reforms, etc. I think there are lots of things that we need to do domestically And the government seems to be quite aware of that. And I would put, whether these labor bills that have been passed recently or even farm bills that have been passed recently, I would put them in the same category. But of course, we need to do much more. We still, I think, at about 63 in the ease of doing business. We need to come well within the first 50 or at least first 30 to make ourselves really attractive. And of course, whether it is education, we have the NEP, the new education policy, in terms of innovation, in terms of skilling, all those things are required to be done. But now coming to the geopolitical and the geostrategic issues, and I think the panelists have very effectively put out all the issues that we contend with. And what has been said is that the one extreme which would like to suggest that everything is really going to move out of China. Maybe it comes to India, it comes to Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Mexico, wherever. And the other point of view, the contention is that nothing is going to move out of China because there is this corporate greed. And I agree with that because that is what the Chinese have been banking upon. But I think 2 or 3 things we need to recognize. Number one, what General Katoch also said, China seems to have bit more than it can chew. I think it has overstretched itself. And we can see this being quite evident in many things happening around. I could give you many examples, maybe I'll give you just 2. One is that foreign policy and international relations at times are not dictated only by economics. We have the case of Australia. Although there was economic coercion that was threatened by China when it said, we will not supply you, we will not take your beef, we will not take your barley, we will not take your wine, we will not send you our students, we will not send you our tourists. But Australia kept on that it wanted an independent, impartial investigation into the origin of the Wuhan virus. The second related, much more recent, maybe it's not one of the biggest organizations of the United Nations, that is the Commission for the Status of Women. Out of about 52, 53 members, there were 3 contenders, there were 3 participants for 2 positions, India, Afghanistan and China. China was not even able to get 50% of the votes. Right? This is indicative that the world is not, is not going to take China at face value. We have seen manner in which China has tried to weaponize the medical implements, the medical supplies, whether it is testing kits, whether it is antibiotics, whether it is ventilators or the others. Even as far as India is concerned, we depend up to 70 to 80% of APIs as far on China. And we know that this dependence is far too much. So I think this realization has come. And as the Prime Minister said very rightly, now it is Japan, Australia, India, others are also joining in. I saw a recent report from Nomura Securities, which said that a large number of companies want to come out of China, and India is their first choice, their priority, where they want to come. Now, all of them might not come out, not very many, but whatever other businesses or factories or enterprises are going to be established, they will not go to China. They will go to some other location, so that the dependence on what we have seen, as far as the United States is concerned, 90% of its antibiotics, it was importing from China. So they have just realized, because the whole world was thinking that as China becomes prosperous,
right,
what the other panelists said very rightly, that it is these countries, US, Japan, etc., which have made China what it is. They thought when China becomes more prosperous, it will become more normal, it will become a part of the global community. That has not happened.
That's not happened.
And
Absolutely.
the world has to really act together.
Absolutely. Sumit, to put it into simple words, the prosperous countries, perhaps might shun China. The developed world might relook at China and come up with incentives because they can afford it, to block out and ostracize China. But what about the nations which are still looking to cut corners, which are still in fact growing? Will they have the same outlook towards China as perhaps the United States, a Germany or an Australia or a Japan would? Probably not. What is the incentive for them to get rid of China?
I think we need evolution is something which is constant, and Mother Nature or the evolution creates options. That is another constant in this world. So what happens is, because today, before this COVID, China was seen as a factory of the world. These Chinese were seeing nice, small little guys who will do work cheap for you and who will deliver on time. But with this COVID, with this Huawei stealing data, with these apps doing what they do, and with the CCP's dangerous designs of, capturing the minds and lives of people, the world has woken up. It's a matter of time. The richer, the prosperous people will leave first, the others will leave later. This richer, prosperous bloc which you call, they will create options. They have to go and create options because that is how the things will shape. Because these even African countries we need today are not buying the Chinese vaccine. Now, China went to them and said, why don't you give, they are putting people in a very difficult situation. Look, I have a vaccine. Now the country says, look, I don't have the money to buy it. Okay, take $1 billion, buy my vaccine. Okay, what about the trials? You're not done the clinical trials. Okay, give me 500 of your men, I'll do the clinical trials. Look, 4,200 men doing clinical trials for Chinese vaccine in Bangladesh, another 1,200 in Indonesia, and 500 cement workers doing in Nepal. What is this all about? So these people might be compelled at this point of time, but when the people of the countries realize they can no longer be used as guinea pigs, their sovereignty, their civilization, their ethos, their existence is under existential threat from China, things change, politics change, and the evolution and the world will throw options. Maybe US's policy changes, and India, it is the right time for India to take a world stage. You see, we need, after this Chinese vaccine diplomacy, our Honorable Prime Minister and the UNSC said, we will supply vaccines to the whole world. No caveats are done. And with every country, he's bringing up this vaccine thing. These are the things, how you take the world stage. India takes on pharmacy, US takes on something else, Russia takes on something else, or France or Germany takes on something else. So when 20 people come and they offer their best, that is the way to replace this autocratic China. That is the way to replace this threat to the world called China. And evolution is constant, it will happen, it's only a matter of time. It might take less time with prosperous countries and a little bit more time with all other countries, but the world has realized the threat. That is the moot point. It cannot be business as usual as far as China is concerned.
Okay, Joyita, Sumit Peer is propounding the theory of evolution, Darwin's theory of evolution, and he's saying that is something which is needed. Perhaps what he's trying to imply is that we need time to in fact ostracize China. But do you think instead of evolution, it's revolution which is required to put China in its right place?
Well, Vineet, let me talk a little bit about, when we are looking at the world, what I meant earlier was that the many companies may not be willing, but at the same time, made in China is increasingly becoming an anathema in the world. Okay, people do not like this immense anger, and you see exactly that was the example I was thinking of. How China was defeated. I mean, could not even enter that particular women's committee in that United Nations body, where it did not even get half of the votes. So that kind of, now if we take off from there is immense scope for India to provide some sort of a leadership. You see, we keep talking about, we have to be a member of the United Nations Security Council because we have all the qualifications. Instead of sitting on our laurels, what we need to do is that we need to channelize the anger that the world has against China. And one way of doing it is in the World Health Organization. How can you do it? You can do it because you are heading that executive board of the World Health Organization. Stand up to China. Don't let China whitewash the investigation. You see, we have to provide direction. Nobody is talking about it. China is stalling that investigation. Holding China to account will be half the job done. And you see, because there's so much anger against China in the world, someone has to channelize it and hold China to account. So this is the opportunity to do it. and I hope we step up to it. Until now, yes, you see what has happened. You see the very fact that we have stood up to China in Ladakh. We have done this app ban. This has had some kind of, people look at India with respect because we have done these things. This kind of decisiveness is required, and this is India has an opportunity, and India needs to grab that opportunity.
Okay.
And that is what I'm saying. Let's hope we step up to it.
Okay, India has an opportunity, General Katoch, and we have to step up to that opportunity. And the big question is, are we ready for that opportunity?
Oh, I think that pushback was started by India, very correctly said by Joyita. You see, that pushback has started, and it was because India started that the rest of the world followed. Otherwise, Europe was capitulating, let's face it. Till when we come to June and we have the Galwan incident, and then now we have a massive build-up on the line of actual control, the world is saying, wow. So I think that part of it is taken care of. The second part, I think both as far as the Indian, the political leadership is concerned, and as far as our diplomats are concerned, I think they have taken that forward step. And I personally have seen this transformation of India's diplomacy over the last 5 to 6 years. It is a totally different diplomacy now. You see the outreach, you see the effort which has gone in all across the world, and you are seeing those results now. So India is not just sitting back on its laurels. I think India is making a very determined push, and very significant statements, not small statements, very significant statement, like the Prime Minister saying that we will provide the vaccine to the whole world. I think these are transformational. You see, and this is where the real change comes out. One more point I want to give before I close my bit is, I agree with all the panelists and with you when you said that the smaller nations, they really don't have any option but to go with China. And that is true. But if they need money and nobody else is going to give it, well, China is there and they provide the resources. So there is that element of saying, okay, let's take it from China, doesn't really matter. But I think increasingly, even the smaller nations are coming around to the view that while we may get the money today, the cost which we may have to pay tomorrow may be exorbitant. And there is now an increasing resistance, even by the smaller countries. That resistance is very, very apparent in Africa. I think it is going to come up in Asia too. And while we may have some of the border countries like Nepal still being friendly with China, I think a pushback will come from even countries like Nepal to the China, despite the fact that the ruling party in Nepal is a communist party very closely aligned to the Chinese government.
Okay.
Beneath.
All right, just 30 seconds to go. In fact, Sumit, I saw your finger go up. You wanted to make a concluding remark. We'll end with you.
I just wanted to make one point. When the Honorable Prime Minister on the UNSC said that we are going to supply vaccine to the whole world, vaccine is something which concerns 7 billion people today, and everybody in their homes are worried how I'm going to get the vaccine and at what cost. That assurance, that commitment, that announcement has said that India has arrived. That was a political masterstroke, I would say, wherein every 7 billion people, where every person on this planet Earth will be interested to know. That's what the Honorable Prime Minister has already set the ball rolling.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.